Hi, I'm Matthew Clausen with MedigapSeminars.org. In this video, we're going to go over all you need to know about Medicare for snowbirds, for RVers, or for people who are on Medicare and expecting to move to a different state. Are you a snowbird, a person who has homes in more than one state and tends to move south for a warmer climate during the winter? Or perhaps you're an RVer and you've got a motorhome and you like to travel all over the country? Or you're simply somebody on Medicare and you expect to move and you want to know how that's going to impact your Medicare and what decisions you have to make. If so, then you should have questions about how being a snowbird or an RVer or moving impacts your Medicare, what kind of decisions you need to make, and what your Medicare rights are. That's what we're going to approach in this video, and we're going to approach it in sort of a frequently asked questions format. Now, we handle Medicare questions and we handle Medicare for people literally coast to coast, from California to Virginia and from Michigan to Miami. We're based in South Florida, and because of that, we tend to get a lot of questions from Florida Snowbirds for people moving down south, and it's become an area of expertise. The first question that we tend to get is a fairly simple one. What's the right Medicare plan for a person who is in multiple states during the year? The answer to that question isn't so much what's the right plan as it is what's the wrong plan. When you sign up for Medicare, you've enrolled, you get a red, white, and blue card, and it tells you you have Medicare Part A and you have Medicare Part B. That's called Original Medicare. That Original Medicare, along with any supplement that you get with that, is good in every state. You can go to any doctor, see any medical facility, as long as they accept Medicare anywhere in the country. You don't need to have a physician give you permission to see a specialist. You have complete control over your Medicare. The other route you can take is enrolling in a Medicare Advantage plan. Now, Medicare Advantage plans are typically HMOs and PPOs. There are some other types, but most are HMOs or PPOs. That's local coverage. That tends to be just your county or just the counties surrounding your area. If you've chosen an HMO, then you have no coverage outside of emergency services, outside of your network. None whatsoever. You've lost your right to have insurance outside of your network. If you have a PPO, then you will have coverage outside of your network, but it will be at a higher cost. With a PPO, you can see a doctor either in network or out of network. In network, which tends to be your local area, you will have copays and deductibles and a maximum annual out-of-pocket expense of no more than $6,700 a year. If you go out of network, it's going to cost you more. It'll cost you higher copays or higher deductibles, and your maximum annual pocket can be as high as $10,000 a year. There are regional PPOs that can offer some extended in-network coverage out of your state, but that's beyond the scope of this particular video. The bottom line is that if you are a snowbird, if you're an RVer, you want to avoid the Medicare Advantage plans. They don't typically satisfy your needs because you have multiple states with which you might want to have coverage. Now, yes, they will come back and say, but we have emergency services outside of our network anywhere in the country. Very true, but you have to read the fine print on an emergency service. Oftentimes, an emergency service is simply stabilizing you until your life is no longer threatened. A perfect example is someone's traveling out of state and gets into an automobile accident and is in traction with almost everything broken. Well, the emergency service is making sure that you're alive and stable. After that, you have to get yourself back to your service area to have coverage. You have to get back in network. Other than that, it's out of network coverage, and that can be very, very expensive. So again, if you're a snowbirder or an RVer, you would want to avoid Medicare Advantage plans. If, however, you find that the Medicare supplements are simply too expensive for you, or the average Medicare supplement, then you might want to consider something called a Medicare Supplement Plan F high deductible, or as will be introduced in 2020, the Plan G high deductible. These are not as high a coverage as you would get with a Plan F or G or N or any of the other more popular supplements, but you still have the freedom to go to any doctor in any state, any medical facility, and your cost is typically under $100 a month, and depending on where you live, it could actually be as low as $50 a month, or even lower, I should say. So you can check on that. We actually have an entire video on Medicare Plan F high deductible that you might want to look at if you're in that situation, but I would only suggest it if your finances really dictate that decision. The next most common question we get is, which state do I use for a resident? I spend 8 months in Pennsylvania and only 4 months in Florida. Does that make Pennsylvania my resident state? Or I spend 6 months in one and 6 months in the other? Well, the answer is that on all of these contracts, on all the insurance contracts, it says you put your permanent address. And the definition of permanent address is actually written into the Social Security law. That's where Medicare laws are written, in with the Social Security. Your permanent address is where you vote and pay taxes. It should also be the same address that you have on record as Social Security. It doesn't matter if you spend 2 months in Florida, but Florida is your permanent address. That's where you have to buy your insurance policies from, whether it be your prescription drug or your supplement or anything else. It doesn't matter how much time, it matters where you vote and where you pay your taxes. Of course, we also get then, well, what if I, cheat a little? Well, this is a contract. And on that contract, you have to write down the information and sign your name. If you are untruthful on a contract, and like any other contract, it could be voided. Insurance companies are not going to check your resident state when you sign up and apply and get accepted, but they have written into every single one of these policies that they have the right to check if something happens. So if you have a medical event, you're in the hospital, the insurance company's looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in costs, they have the right to check to make sure that everything is truthful on your application. If they find it wasn't truthful, they have the right to void the contract. That is a decision that can be made, and of course it would be made when you are in your absolute worst circumstances. So I look at insurance as it's what we use to mitigate financial risk. Well, if you're not truthful on the application, you're not mitigating financial risk, you're just changing it from one scenario to another. It's not a wise decision. So the next question would be, what if you have Medicare and you decide to move? You decide to change your permanent residence. What happens? Well, first off, if you have a Medicare supplement, that is good in every single state. It's good everywhere you go. You don't need to do anything. If you have a Medicare supplement and there's the exact same supplement offered by the exact same company in a different state, then that company has the right to raise your price. If it's a higher price in that state, you have the right to ask for a lower price if the supplement's a lower price in that state, because the prices in every state's different. If you have questions on that, you can contact us. We'll be able to give you some more specific information. But keep in mind, a lot of these companies have one subsidiary working in one state, another subsidiary working in another. Those aren't the same policies, and if they don't have the same policy, they can't do anything with the price. Now let's say you have your prescription drug Part D plan, or you happen to have a Medicare Advantage plan. Well, then what do you do? Well, first off, when you're going to move, when you know you're going to move, you need to notify your prescription drug or your Medicare Advantage plan company. Typically 30 days before the month that you're going to move. So the month before the month you're going to move. Call them up, tell them, hey, I'm going to move out of your service area. Our new resident's going to be such and such. They will send you a letter, and in that letter they're going to say, you're moving out of our service area, so we can no longer cover you. It's called a disenrollment letter. That's your free pass. With a disenrollment letter, once you move, or even as you're planning to move, you can then get a new prescription drug plan or a new Medicare Advantage plan for the location that you've moved to. When you do the application, you don't have to wait for annual enrollment. You don't have to wait for anything. It's a special period for you. So you simply apply to the insurance company for a new plan. They'll want to see, typically, the disenrollment letter, because that's what gives you the right to get the new plan. And no one can deny you coverage. You'll simply have a new plan with the new address for where you're living. One of the best sources for taking a look at or researching your Medicare rights, and not just for the rights of when you're moving, but when you can have a special circumstance that will give you the right to purchase another plan. We prefer the Choosing a Medigap Policy Guide. And I'm going to link it up right up in here. And when you look on pages 22 and 23 of the 2016 version, could be different pages on another version, if it's when they put out the 2017 and 18, etc. But there's going to be a table that lists your rights and under what circumstances you can get different plans. Very easy to follow. It's actually great information to have for anyone who's on Medicare, just to have it and as a record. So that's it. Those are our most frequent questions for snowbirders, RVers, and people who are moving from one state to another and how it impacts your Medicare. I hope you found this information useful. If you have, then please subscribe to our channel, or also like this video. When you like this video, you increase the probability that when somebody else is searching for the same questions that you're searching for, that they're going to find this video and help answer their questions. I'm Matthew Clausen with MedigapSeminars.org. Thank you for watching.